Welcome back guys. In this video lecture we will discuss about the RAAS mechanism. Now what the RAAS mechanism is? So actually whenever in our body the level of sodium ion it will decrease. So in this case the decreased sodium ion basically it will show that we have a drop blood pressure in our body. Now there is a direct relation between the sodium ion and the blood pressures. Now when the blood pressure it will drop from the normal levels, so in our body a physiological pathway is operated. Now this pathway basically it will try to maintain our blood pressures. This pathway is actually called as RAAS mechanism. Now let's come to more about this blood pressure drop and rise. So basically our normal blood pressure have a value of 120/80. Now when this blood pressure it will rise from their normal range, so we called it as hypertension. Now in this case the hormone is secreted from the hearts that we call as atrial natriuretic peptides. Now this hormone basically it will try to normalize the blood pressures. Now when the normal blood pressure it will drop from their normal value, so in this case in our body the RAAS mechanism it will operate it and will try to normalize the blood pressures. Now this is basically how the RAAS mechanism it will act, or what does the RAAS mechanism do in our body. So this is the RAAS mechanism. So basically RAAS it is stand from renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system. Now what is the proper definition of RAAS mechanism? So basically it is a physiological pathway in which there is regulation of the blood pressure occurs. So one of the main purpose of the RAAS system is that they will try to regulate the blood pressures, or will try to maintain the blood pressures that will drop due to the low concentration of sodium ion. Now what is the stimulus that operate the RAAS mechanism? So here are some of the stimulus that are responsible for the operation of RAAS systems. The first stimulus that is high secretion of potassium ions. Now the hyper secretion of the potassium ion we call it is hyperkalemia. Next stimulus that is when there is low concentration of the sodium ions. Now this low concentration of this sodium ion we call as hyponatremia. This is also the stimulus for the operation of the RAAS mechanism. The third one that is when there is drop in the blood pressures. We call it when there is hypertension conditions. In this case the RAAS system it is operated. As I have already told you, there is a direct relation between the sodium ion and the blood pressures. When there is high sodium level there is high blood pressures. When there is low sodium ion there will be low blood pressures. Or when there is lower in the extracellular fluids we call it is hypovolemia. Now these are basically the stimulus that are responsible for the operation of the RAAS mechanism. Now what is renin, angiotensin and aldosterone? What are these substances? So basically these are the hormones. Now renin basically it is a hormone that is secreted by the kidney, especially the glomerular cells that are present at the afferent arterioles. Again there is another term related with the renin, although both of these terms are pronounced similarly, but here is the difference in the spell. So here is there is 2N, and this is basically the enzyme that is found in the stomach of the children's, and the basic action of this is that is it will convert the milk into the curds, while renin it play important role in the regulation of the blood pressures. Now the second term that is angiotensin. Angiotensin it is basically a peptide mainly composed of 8 to 10 amino acids. As angiotensin 1 it will composed of 10 amino acid, and angiotensin 2 basically composed of 8 amino acids. Now the third term, that is aldosterones. So this is basically a steroid hormone, and this hormone basically it is secreted from the adrenal cortex. Now inside the adrenal cortex there are further 3 layers are existed. Now which layer it is responsible for the secretion of aldosterone, that we will see in the diagram of the adrenal cortex. Now this hormone aldosterone, it is basically called as life-saving hormone, because with the absence of the aldosterone, within a few weeks the death of individual occurs. So that's why we call it aldosterone. It is a life-saving hormone. Now this is basically the structure of the adrenal glands. Now adrenal gland basically composed of two parts. The outer region of the adrenal glands that we call is adrenal cortex, while the inner part of the adrenal glands we call it adrenal medulla. Now this adrenal cortex, it is basically composed of 3 layers. The outermost layer of the adrenal cortex we call is zona glomerulosa, and the middle layer that is called as zona fasciculata. Zona glomerulosa, that is the outer layer of the adrenal cortex that are responsible for the secretion of aldosterone. Now how the RAAS mechanism it will act in the regulation of the blood pressures. Now whenever there is drop in the blood pressures, or you can say when there is drop in the sodium levels, so inside the afferent arterioles there is a glomerular cell is present. Now this cell basically it will release the hormone that we call as renin. Now this renin basically it will act on the angiotensinogen. These are basically the proteins that are found in the bloods, and basically it is secreted by the livers, and it is basically composed of 553 amino acids. Now when this renin it will act on the angiotensinogen and convert it into the angiotensin 1, which is basically a peptide and composed of 10 amino acid. Now against another enzyme it will act on the angiotensin 1 and will convert it into the angiotensin 2. So here's enzyme that are secreted from the lungs that we call as angiotensin converting enzyme. Now this enzyme basically it will do these actions. Now angiotensin it will act on different body parts and will try to regulate the blood pressures. So angio term it is used for the blood vessels. Tensin term it is basically used for the contractions. These are the hormones that is able to constrict the blood vessels. So one of the action of angiotensin that is on the blood vessel, and it will cause the vasocontraction of the blood vessel, due to which the blood pressure it will rise and it will reach to the normalized level. Again the angiotensin it will act on the posterior lobe of the pituitary glands. Now when this angiotensin 2 it will act on the posterior lobe of the pituitary glands, so from here the antidiuretic hormone is secreted. Now this hormone basically it is responsible for the retention of waters in the body. Now again angiotensin it will act on the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is basically the center of the thirst, so it will increase the thirst, so due to which the water intake occurs through drinking. Next angiotensin 2 basically it will also act on the adrenal cortex, and from the layer of the adrenal cortex that we call as zona glomerulosa, from here aldosterone it is secreted. Now this aldosterone basically it will act on the kidney and will basically absorb the sodium ion. So when sodium ion are absorbed from the renal tubules, so here the sodium level it will rise, and basically the blood pressure it will maintain. Again, aldosterone basically it will also responsible for the excretion of the potassium ion from the body. So by this way, the RAAS mechanism it will regulate our blood pressures. So this is overall about the RAAS mechanism. Thank you so much.